What's going on, people? Welcome back to Abletontips. My name is La, and today we're going to finish off our series, the start to finish series in this melodic house, this chilled melodic house project that I've made. And so today we're going to be doing the mixing and mastering. We have mixed along the way, so we won't be doing too much, but it's just kind of making things feel nice and full, making sure there's enough room for anything, no mud or resonant frequencies and things like that. So what we'll do now is just play a little bit of the track just to refresh you, and then we'll get into the mixing process and then a little bit of mastering at the end. So I'll just play from this build up going into the last drop. Cool, yeah, so I'm really happy with it. I like the way that it sounds. It's very chilled and soothing. So yeah, I think we are ready to dive into the mix. So first thing I just want to talk about is volume control. So we will come into this session view here. So in the session view here, you can see the volume levels of everything. And I mean, as much as you shouldn't mix with your eyes, you can definitely use them as a guide. And so what I like to do, and I think I said this earlier on in the series, is I would have the kick at around minus 10 dB. It doesn't have to be exact, but around minus 10 dB. And then I'll have the limiter pushing to that kick, or the ceiling of the limiter pushing to that kick. So that's going to be the loudest element in the track, and then everything else I will mix around that essentially. So as I'm looking through these volume levels, I'm just making sure that nothing is going over the minus 10 dB mark, and then just gauging how quiet things are in comparison to the kick, because maybe they can come up a little bit more. So we play through from this area here, this last drop, which is where it's pretty much the loudest part as all the elements come in, especially here. And we just play through and see if everything is sitting right. So this main synth is a little bit loud. It's pushing a little bit. So what I can do, because it's jumping quite a lot, it's sometimes quiet, sometimes loud. I'll just put another compressor here, and I'll put it on like a catching peak style. So quite aggressive attack, aggressive release, and a very high ratio. So it's kind of acting like a limiter. And so it's going to just grab any peak that jumps over a little bit much. We can bring the makeup gain down for now. We'll have a listen. It's already doing the gain reduction, which is all good. And it's not doing too much. With it being this aggressive, you don't want it to be very strong, because it's going to kill the punch of the sound. So we just turn it on and off and see if it's making too much change to the sound. That's not what we want. Besides volume, I don't think it's not killing the transient of the sound, which is all good. Maybe we can make up a little bit. Yeah, so this is all good. It's not jumping over 10 dB. Or it is a little bit. Maybe we come down a little bit more. So I'm just watching the whole time to make sure that there's no jump in volume or no spike in volume. And this is why mixing can take quite a while, because you might do this with quite a few elements where you're sitting and you can sit through the majority of the track really, because there might be a point where you maybe pull the cutoff filter open or you do something with an LFO and it gets particularly loud. And if you have a point where it gets really loud, it's going to be pushing your limiter and not allowing you to make other elements in the track nice and loud and big, because that's going to be pushing the ceiling. So yeah, you want to just go through and make sure you have like a fair bit of volume control. You do want it to be pretty dynamic. You don't want the sound to just be at the same volume the entire time. It's nice to have these differences and the dynamicness. So yeah, you want to be wary of that. Just gentle compression. Okay, so let's now, I think the synth is all good. We'll just close this down. And then the drums. So I do like to mix from like the kick, the bass, the drums, and then I work through the synths. You can do it in whichever order you like, but that's like the priority for me: the kick, the bass, and then the drums. And so what you can do is just solo these things and just see how they sit on their own. Let's go here. I think I could get a little bit more high end out. I personally like doing group processing rather than just individual processing. Obviously, sometimes you do individual processing. Say if it's just like a hi-hat or something that's a bit resonant, you can go in and fix that. But what I like to do is we'll put like a channel EQ. So this is for like a group channel really, or you can use it in whichever way you like. And I just want to do a little boost in the high end. Maybe a little bit more. The next thing that we want to add is a little bit of compression. This is just going to help to add a bit of punch to the drums. Let's have a little listen. So bring the threshold so we get some gain reduction. Just a little bit, maybe like 3 dB. And what I want to do is just bring the release down so it's not holding the gain down for too long, and then loosen the attack. Now we can come a little bit further with the threshold. And you'll hear that the energy's dropped a little bit because we're not making up the gain just yet. But let's bring this up. So around 3 is probably where we're at. And just check through, make sure we're not going too loud here. Okay, and then we'll just do a little before and after. Bring the gain down a little bit, it's quite a bit of a jump. Yeah, they feel a bit more glued together, and I always look away just to see that I'm not cheating my eyes when I turn it on and off. So yeah. Nice. All right, cool. So I think the drums are sounding good. Maybe we can do a little bit of saturation, and saturation will help for kind of perceived volume. So you can just bring this dry wet down. We don't want it to be too strong. And we can bring the drive up a little bit. We want to just make sure we are not just adding volume here. So if we just turn it off, look where the volume is. On average, it's at around 14. And now it's up by 2. Turn this on and off. Yeah, I think the saturation is a nice touch. So let's just group these together. And then we'll do like a before and after. And I probably need to just do a little volume adjustment. So we'll just check that. So I'll turn this off. it's at 16 there, and then with this on, we'll just adjust the volume here at the end. We're up by quite a bit, so let's come down. Not that much. One more. Yeah, I think there is fair, I would say. Maybe it'd be nice to have a little bit more. Maybe just come up. Yeah, there is about the same. So now we'll turn it on and off. Yeah, so what you want to listen for is the high end comes out. It's got a bit more shine on it, so it feels a bit brighter. The clap isn't so aggressive where it's like, it's more even, I would say. The overall volume of the drums feel a little bit more even. So we'll have a listen again. And it feels louder than before, even though the volume has been adjusted. So yeah, this is what this kind of processing can give you, just this nice kind of perceived volume and a bit of glue and consistency along your drums, and also a nice bit of brightness and high end, which gives it a bit of shine. So yeah, let's move on. I'm going to add the synths in now. I think the bass was all good. Usually I would do a little bit of bass processing, but there was quite a bit on here. We've got some saturation, we've got some sidechain compression and some EQ. Don't really need to compress it as well. I think it's all good. So yeah, let's add the synths in. Yeah, so the synth is still kind of jumping up and down a bit. So what I do in this case is I'll put a limiter, and then I'll set the ceiling to around minus 10, I think would be all good. Or maybe we can go a little bit less, so the kick is just a little bit louder. And you're getting quite a bit of gain reduction here, so I'm just going to bring this gain down so it's not too heavy. There's all good. And then we can just turn the volume off on here. The volume control off on here. Because this is going to be our volume control. This is setting the ceiling for the overall volume. You see here that's at minus 11. That's what we've got it at here. So you can lead the volume up on here and just control it here instead. So we'll bring the gain down a bit here. And the benefit for this limiter is just it's not going to allow the volume to jump over wherever we set it to. So rather than it being all over the place, and also it will make the quieter parts of the sound a little bit louder. Still a little bit loud. I think I can make the ceiling a little bit lower. I think it's still a bit loud. I think with everything else with it, there's like the transients and stuff like that. I'm just going to come down a little bit more. And you can do some fine tweaking here. Maybe down by this much. You just, as you're listening to something and you're thinking, is it loud or too loud, or is it too quiet? Just listen to the other elements around it. So like the kick, the bass, the drums, and do I feel like they kind of lose a they're not the spotlight, but do you lose them in the mix? And if you are, then you probably got something that's a little bit too loud, and you can do that across the board. If you have your sub that's too loud, usually you'll start losing other elements in the mix, like your drums and things like that. So you just got to listen to the other things and also listen to the main element, and just don't really make the decision based off numbers as much. You can a little bit for a guideline, but mostly just use your ears. And I know that's something that you probably hate hearing, but you should just use your ears and go, okay, yeah, it's too loud or it's too quiet. So just do some more fine tweaking here. It's good since it's the main synth and it does want to be like in the main spotlight. I don't mind it being quite prominent. We can now bring in these elements, and to be fair, we should unsolo everything now since we've gone through like the main groups. We'll unsolo everything and then have a listen and just see if we need to turn something up. I think the plucks come up a little bit. I'm going to just add some saturation to them as well. Just warm them up a little bit. So this is on the group. So both of the plucks together, they're going to have this nice bit of saturation, just a little bit. Put it before the compressor, just because it's going to add volume, and I'm going to leave the volume as it is. I do want to add volume, so I'm not going to adjust for the volume. Yeah, I think the vocal can come up a little bit as well. We've got the volumes to a good point, I think. I think the piano is nice here, the drone's all good, the effects are all good, and the vocals are all good. Now you want to just listen, like, do you hear any things like mud or any painful frequencies? Now that you've got everything nice and loud and at the volume where you want it to, maybe you need to do a little bit of EQing here and there. I think maybe we might need to do a little bit with the synth. It could be a tad muddy. So all we can do for that is we come into the synth. So here, and the mud usually resides around here, and I have done a little bit of a dip. Let's just have a listen. Have a listen with everything. And this is something I should have said at the start, but you should try and not solo anything individually if you're doing the whole entire mix, because it doesn't matter how good something sounds on its own, it's how it sounds in comparison to everything else, or alongside everything else. I think what we can do is a little bit of mid-side EQ. So I'll just duplicate this EQ here, and we go to mid-side, because we've got some we have some reverb on the synth, and it's going to be adding this quite low side information. So we maybe just want to EQ here a little bit heavier on the side, maybe around here. Can boost it a little bit here. Now with this you have to be careful, because you will start to feel a bit of the warmth of the track being taken away, and that's what I'm actually starting to feel now. So I'm just going to come back here and we'll do a little on and on. I need to start it here. Yeah, it's killing a bit of the warmth, so I think we'll just maybe ease off a little bit here. It might be this harsh mid-cut as well. No, it's definitely this side cut. Maybe we just a little bit. Something like this, so we'll just do a little bit of a dip here. Like that. It's making a little bit of a difference. I'm going to leave it on. It's not killing the warmth too much now, so which is all nice. I'm just noticing a few like peaks here where the compressor is kind of overworking quite a lot. Let me just check. Yeah, see like there. Don't really want that much gain reduction. Bring it down a little bit. Maybe make the attack a little bit harsher. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, cool. So I think we have everything at a nice level, and I think we will move on to a bit of mastering.
Hi, this video is sponsored by us. If you like these tutorials and want to support the channel, check out our website packed with online courses and professional sound packs. If you want to cut years of your learning curve, check the PML Beginner to Advanced Music Production program for Ableton Live. You will know Ableton inside out and learn how to write, produce, mix and master complete tracks. You learn step by step at your own speed, from an empty file to professional production, as if we're sitting side by side in the studio. Thank you for listening, and now let's get back to your tutorial.
So let's go into here, and what we have already is a limiter set up. We can turn this off for now, and we can see that the volume is less than, it's -7. Might peak at around, -6. So it's at a good point for us to start adding our mastering chain, and we're not going to go too crazy here, but a little bit of a glue compressor, and we can do this as quite a harsh one, but we'll put it at 50% here. And this is just going to be to grab any particular peak that might jump out. We really don't want this to be doing too much gain reduction at all. Yeah, around there, maybe a little bit more. It's just going to average the volume out a little bit. We can just add a small amount of makeup here. And then what we want next is possibly a bit of saturation. I do use saturation quite a lot, but it helps. So we're going to add a little bit of saturation here. I think the way that we'll use this is we'll add a bit of drive. Soft sine, and we can just put the dry wet down and then bring it up. And with this we want to make sure we're not adding the volume, it's just saturation. So I think we're adding volume here. Yeah, it's at 8, so let's bring that down. Around there. Maybe add a bit more. A bit less gain. A bit less. Yeah, there's even, and then we'll turn it on and off. Yeah, adds a little bit of color, which is what we want really. We don't want much anything too heavy. And color is just kind of like a little bit of warmth and just adds this. It's very hard to describe the sound of it, but it's something that you just need to like play around with saturators and you'll hear. It's adding this nice little bit of something. And then now we'll add a bit of OTT. So this you need to use very lightly on here. We're going to bring the amount down to like 9%. So with this, you want to just control how much gain reduction it's doing. So because we've got compression already, so this is the downwards compression on these sides. So we can just bring them up a little bit so they're not compressing too hard. Maybe bring the high end a bit more. Let's bring the amount up. Now we're adding a bit of volume, so let's just go down by 2. Turn this on and off. Yeah, it's definitely adding more volume. Let's bring this down a bit more. But it's adding a lot to the sound. It brings every element, every frequency band up a little bit. It excites it. All right, cool. So we have everything sounding nice and colorful. We can do a little bit of EQing, and I'll be honest, I use a fab filter for this because I want to do some really fine EQing and maybe some dynamic EQing. You can't do that with the EQ8. So yeah, the Pro Q is a highly recommended tool to get if you're thinking of grabbing a fancy plugin. And what we want to do here is just kind of listen first. Don't just think, oh yeah, there's going to be resonant frequencies in the high end. Like I'll just put them down straight away. Just listen, and if you hear something that's a bit sharp, then you want to do a bit of EQ. And what you could do is just bring the volume up. So I'm just going to turn it up in my headphones here so I can really hear. And you can see on here, like it tells you bits that are jumping out if you just hover. So this might be jumping out a little bit much, so we can just put this down. We'll have a listen to it as well. Yeah. And with the fab filter, you can do this dynamic EQ, so it won't EQ the entire time. It's just when it's resonant. Put it on auto. And it will automatically assign how much gain reduction to do, depending on how loud it is. Maybe a little bit more. Grab this one here as well. Just check this high end here. I think it might be one little, this guy. Yeah, it's very sharp. Let's bring the threshold down a little bit. And I'm thinking to do a little bit of a boost here. This usually adds a nice bit of like crack to your, not a crack, but like it adds a bit of snap and like air to your, just your overall mix, usually boosting around here, or you can go a little bit higher. But yeah, I think around here is usually where the clap resides, and some of the like nice high frequency. So a little bit of a boost is. Yeah, nice. Okay, cool. I think that is a nice bit of EQing, and now we can come in and do some limiting. So we'll put this limiter at the end here, and we could just turn this on. It should be fine. It might be a little bit too loud now, but we'll just give it a go. Yeah, a little bit of gain reduction is fine. It's not too harsh. We can do one other thing, and this is something where you will need another fancy plugin. It's just because I can't think how to show you this with Ableton, at least not this detailed. So we're going to use Ozone Imager, and with this one, the thing that's so good about it is that you can split it into bands, and that's why we're using this one. So we're going to split the frequency range into bands. That's what this thing is at the top. And so we have the low end, the mids, and then the top. And we can have like the really highs up here. And generally what you want to do is just have a look first. I like the around 100 hertz to be in completely mono. So we're going to, or at least like quite a bit mono. I don't mind having a little bit of width there. And then we can just work through, and we'll just have a listen first and see if we have anything that's peaking or phasing. So if there's a point where this meter here is dropping below 0, or there's a lot of things that are shooting out to the side here, they're not going to be that mono compatible, so we might need to like dial them in, and I'll show you how to do it. So I think I could actually add a little bit more width. I'm going to just come to around here actually. I'll add a little bit more width as we're moving up the frequency range. So as it gets brighter and brighter, there'll be more side information. Jumping a little bit, come down a touch. And you just solo the individual channels and see if they're dropping too low. Like here, it's a little bit too wide. Okay, and we'll just do a little before and after. So it just becomes that little bit wider. It's not much, but it adds quite a bit of excitement into the stereo field. We already do have quite a bit of like delay and stuff like that, which is going to be helping that, but it's just controlling the overall group. Just gives it this nice bit of control, I guess. Okay, so one thing I'm just hearing is a bit of distortion, so we're just going to ease back a little bit on this. And so with the ceiling here, so say if this is your final limiter, we could add another limiter after this, but say if this is your final limiter, you can have the ceiling at 0, completely at 0, and that's fine for like WAVs, or if you're sending it to labels and it's going to be on your SoundCloud and stuff. But if you need it into MP3, you should have a ceiling of at least -1 dB, because it will create a bit of digital distortion, which is not what you want. So it's up to you what you're going to use the demo for. For me, I usually just put it at 0, and that's going to make it sound nice and loud. we don't want to squash it and kill all the dynamics, and that's why we're not going to push this too far. So we are now in the final step of the mastering, and we're not going to be doing any adjusting to the sound now. It's just going to be checking how loud the track actually is and how squashed it is. We don't want to be squashing the track too much. So what I'm going to do now is just check the average volume on the LUFs. That's the meter that I'm familiar with, just LUFs. And you can use a reference to compare what their volume level is at. But I usually aim for around between -10 and -7. It all depends on the track. In all honesty, it doesn't matter too much because if the track gets signed, the label will master it anyway, and they'll decide what volume level it should be at. So it just should be nice and loud and clear and punchy. And I think am I spelling this wrong? Yeah, there we go. So this is a great little meter. It's free. There we go, and we'll just play the sound. Yeah, so I'm just checking here, making sure that I'm not getting too much gain reduction across the board. The volume levels are sitting right. They're at around -9 and -8 LUFs, which is all good. I don't really want to go much louder. It's quite a chill track. If you've got like a really heavy, I don't know, future house, maybe progressive house, techno track, you might want it to be super loud. But yeah, in my experience, I would say it's always better to not push it too far. So yeah, now what we're going to do is just listen through the track and see if there's any points where things get a little bit loud because we've now boosted the volume and things, and just see if anything stands out a little bit too much, and then just control it, and then I think we're pretty much done. So one last thing before I forget is we need to export the track. And I'll show you how to do that as well. So we'll just come here and we want to loop to the end of the track. Make sure that the ending is nice and smooth. Come here, maybe here. Yeah, so you could do that. And maybe just do a little bit of a delay. So we just use the delay which is in Ableton on the return and just increase it here a little bit. Oh, let's go here. There we go. So you're just getting that nice little effect tail. This is something that Monster Cat Silk requests me to do all the time. They love a little effect tail ending. But yeah, so we can end it around here. It's probably where the tail will die off. And then we go like here. And we just start. And you can just give a little bit of a gap just so the audio doesn't click. Like that. There we go. Okay, so then we click. And then we go File, Export. And we check all these settings. So for me, I have on 48 Hertz. You could have it on 41 if that's what you've been you're listening to the track in. And you can leave this on 16 WAV. You can leave Diva off. Yeah, we'll leave Diva off and just go and export. And then just choose where you want to put it. And just put start to finish. And then export. And there you go. And you can send it to, put it on your SoundCloud or whatever you use. And then send it to you with your desired label. Cool. Hope this was helpful for you guys and educational. It's been a lot of fun. Hopefully I can do some more, maybe in some different genres, maybe something a little bit heavier like some melodic techno or something like that. But yeah, if it was helpful and educational, please let us know in the comments and like the video. Subscribe as well if you haven't already, of course. Cool. Thank you very much, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.